Hi, welcome back. This week we're going to make one of the most popular things I make, and one of my favorite things is cinnamon rolls. Now, cinnamon rolls is an enriched dough. That means it has fat from butter, milk, and eggs. It also has a little sugar in the dough. And it's different from last week when we made a lean dough that didn't have any fat and it was very simple. This is a little more complicated, but I think we can step it up this week, have a little more fun. Let's see. We're going to get right to it. Here's our bread flour, and we have our instant yeast. We're going to throw that right in to the dough like we did last time, and take our whisk and we're going to whisk it. Try not to make a mess like I'm doing. Usually I don't tip the bowl. And then we'll just set that aside real quick. And then we're going to take our milk, but the milk is 50% of the weight of the flour. We talked about that in our last video, and hopefully you remember. But it's very important. Everything is done in ratios of weight. And we're going to add in the salt and the sugar first, because I like to make sure those are dissolved into the milk. Now, everything is room temperature and really soft and warm, the butter. I like to beat that around a little bit just to get it nice and dissolved. And then I'm going to add the eggs in. And the butter. As far as ratio goes, the milk was 50%, but the butter, eggs, and sugar are all 10% of the weight of the flour. Easy to remember, easy to work with. So I'm going to mix those in a little bit. The butter should be really, really soft. And immediately dump our flour mixture into what we just mixed. Have a little bit of saran wrap there. And we're going to put it in the mixer, the stand mixer, for 4 minutes on speed 2 and then 2 minutes on speed 4. Okay, so that's been 6 minutes, 4 minutes mixing and 2 minutes kneading really quick. And our dough looks like this. It is ready to come out. What I like to do is oil my hands a little bit just to make sure they're nice and oily, and oil our trusty plastic container. So I'm going to form it into like a ball here, and then sort of just rub a little bit of oil on the top for it to rise. Now we're going to rise it till it's double. It's going to be about an hour, sometimes hour and a half. Because this is enriched dough, enriched dough takes longer to rise. So it might be an hour and a half. So now we got it nice and oiled. And we're going to plop it in our trusty plastic tub here. And I'm going to do a time-lapse video again to show you it rising. And then I'll let you know afterwards how long it actually took. Okay, while the dough is rising, we have to make the goo that goes in the bottom of the pan where we put our rolls to bake. Now we're going to bake in this, it's an 11 by 15. I lined it with aluminum foil mostly because I don't like to get the goo all over the pan. But it's 11 by 15 pan, 2 inches deep. I'm going to do 12 cinnamon rolls, so they're going to be quite big. So there's only 4 ingredients in the goo. First, we start with our brown sugar. It's 200 grams of brown sugar here. Put that in our bowl. We have 140 grams of heavy cream. As we pour that in there, you can use a spatula to get all of it out. Now everything should be room temperature. You can have it all sitting out, from earlier in the day. There's 50 grams of butter. The butter should be really soft because you're going to mix this thing with a whisk, and you're going to have to make sure the butter is all dissolved inside. And then finally we use 80 grams of corn syrup. Now this isn't that high fructose corn syrup that everyone hates. This is regular light corn syrup that prevents the sugar from crystallizing in the bottom. So it's really important. Once you're done with that, just set it aside because we're going to put it in the pan right before we put the cinnamon rolls in, and that's in about an hour. So I'm not sure if you know why it's called cinnamon rolls, but it's cinnamon rolls because it's a rolled dough. We actually roll the dough up after we fill it, and we're going to fill it inside with brown sugar and cinnamon. It's a combination, and we'll do that in the next step after the dough is risen. But we got to prepare that now. So we take 240 grams of brown sugar, and we mix that with 40 grams of cinnamon. Now cinnamon is really powdery, so be careful, be very slow with it or you're going to get cinnamon everywhere. Especially this amount, it's a lot of cinnamon, so just be really careful. Okay, so it's like a gravel now, or a sand. Cover it in plastic wrap, set it aside until we need it, which is in the next step, and then we'll get to the good stuff. So I hope you liked that time-lapse video of the dough rising. We're back here, and now we're going to come back to our goo. Here's our goo from a little while ago that we made. We're going to pour it into our prepared pan. Just see that go in. Get all of it in there. And then we're going to spread it around on the bottom. Then we take our dough, which is here, and we're going to put it directly on our work surface, and we're going to roll it out. So you're going to need a rolling pin. Now this is my rolling pin. I like a big piece of wood. It just feels nicer in the hands, and it's easier to handle. You have to keep it oiled up regularly, and so you'll get better performance if you oil your wood. Okay, there we go. This is our cinnamon roll dough base, and what we're going to do now is we're going to coat the entire thing in butter. Now we take our cinnamon sugar mixture and we cover the entire dough. Okay, there we are. And I think you guys can see that it's entirely coated. And we have our goo there. Put that aside. I think we can see that maybe. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll the dough. We take the first little bit and we do a small, quick tuck and roll there. And you might push some cinnamon, don't worry about that, but just get the first roll really tight. And then you can start rolling it by just rolling it like this. Here's our cinnamon roll, and the way we do it is we have 12. So I like to cut it in half, and then I like to cut it in half again, and each one of those quarters gets 3 cuts. That makes 12. So if you want to measure it, you can do that. I have a little tape measure I like to use. You know, you might have one in your nightstand or somewhere that you can use. This is almost exactly 18 inches like I wanted. It's actually 17 and a half. So each one is going to be a little less than 1.5 inches. But as I measure this, halfway up is about 8 right there. So I'm going to make a cut real quick. I just push right through. It's pretty sharp, so it can do that. And this, then we make another cut halfway through. Okay, so there we have it. Those are our 12 cinnamon rolls. I can't lift it up too much or else it's going to be go all over the place. But those are there, and we're going to leave it now. I didn't do a perfect job. Some are a little smaller than others. You know, every time you have people over, they're going to say, oh, I want the smaller one. So save those ones for them. We're going to leave it to rise for about 40 minutes to an hour until they get almost to the top of the smaller ones get almost to the top of the lip here and they start filling out. You'll notice definite. And then we're going to bake them at 375 for about 30 to 40 minutes. And about 20 minutes in, we're going to cover it with aluminum foil so they don't brown too much on top. Okay, so they have risen. It was 40 minutes and they're puffy, and you can see here there's a little bit of goo seeping through as it goes up. And usually I cover it with a little bit of oiled plastic wrap when I do it so that it doesn't dry out, but I wanted to make that time-lapse video, so I didn't this time. Might be a little off, but I would suggest covering it with plastic wrap before you put it in. But these are going to go in the oven 375 for 30 to 30, maybe sometimes 40 minutes until an internal temperature of 195. And if you remember back to my thermometer video, that's how you determine that. So here they go. That sound means we've hit our temperature. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to take out our probe and grab another oven mitt because this is going to be big and hot. And take out our cinnamon rolls. Now here they are. They look fabulous. They are done. Yum. So now what we do is I turn them over. So we loosen the aluminum foil around the edges and we let them sit for 20 minutes. Put a baking sheet on there. I turn it over like this. Oops. Whoosh! Lift that up. Aluminum foil, some of it will come. And then let it sit for 20 minutes. Look at that. That's quite gooey. This is the bottom, remember, and it will even out the top when you do it like this, but it's just to make sure it doesn't get overly moist on the inside. So we're gonna let this cool for 20 minutes, and then we're gonna make the frosting to go on top. I'll see you in a bit. Our cinnamon rolls have cooled. Here they are. They're still a little bit warm. It's been 20 minutes, so they cooled and they're turned right side up. Now we're gonna make the frosting that goes on top. It's gooey on the bottom and then there's a frosting on top. It's perfect. I want to set this aside real quick and I'll show you. We start with 226 grams of butter and 226 grams of cream cheese. Now, those are both like 1 cup or, you know, I think it's also like half a pound of cream cheese, 8 ounces in there. And we beat those with a wooden spoon until they're nice and mixed. They should be really warm, room temperature. Get it nice and mixed together. As you can see there, it's pretty well mixed. And then we're going to pour in 10 grams of vanilla extract and 10 grams of lemon juice. Now, the lemon juice is going to add a little bit of tartness. You won't taste the lemon juice, but it's going to add a little bit of tanginess to it. And tanginess is all really nice in desserts. Mix that in nice. And then finally, we add 240 grams of powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar. Add a little bit at a time and mix it in just to make sure it incorporates all. You can see there. We have our frosting. We have our rolls. Now I have my little spatula to take it out, and I have my offset spatula here that I really love that I'm going to put the frosting on with. It's a really great device. So let's see. I want to choose this one here. So I'm going to cut it out. And look at that. We'll move this aside. Nice and fluffy. Yum. Take a little bit of frosting, or a lot of frosting. It's still wet, still hot, so it's going to melt a little bit of it. And you can wait till it's entirely cool, but you know, it's a little warm, so that's nice. Let's take a bite. That is spectacular. If I do say so myself. I probably have frosting all in my face. Cinnamon rolls. They'll make you friends, trust me. Yum. You guys, really, try this recipe. It's great. I can't wait to see you next week. We're going to do more fun baking. I'll see you then. Bye.